Hello everyone, welcome back. Today I'm going to talk to you about the one question that's never asked. Our medical system is based on we walk into the doctor, we tell them how we feel, and 15 minutes later we walk out with a prescription. I know this firsthand because I had colitis in my 30s. It took them 2 years to diagnose it. I was given anti-inflammatories and I was given steroids, and then I was sent home to basically get better. What the doctor didn't ask was what caused this in the first place. Never asked me what my diet was once. And ironically enough, I went back years later and he said, "You're the only patient who has been off medication and has no symptoms whatsoever. And when I go and get my scope checkup," he said, "you look perfectly normal inside." I told him that I found this special supplement and that it healed my insides. And he said, "That's great. Go home, keep doing what you're doing," and had no interest in learning about it for his own patients. So what I realized is disease is caused by a few things. In my case with colitis, it was poor diet. I had been overprescribed antibiotics and I had had a traumatic incident. And I've come to learn that when you have a major emotional upset in your life, this can trigger disease. You can have everything lying dormant, but it's the emotions that bring it out. I also realized that eating too much processed packaged foods, which is what I did when I worked in construction, also has a huge impact on the body. So why do you care? It's important because when we eat processed foods, it creates acidity in the body. And basically acidity is, you can equate that to pain, inflammation, aging in the body. And a quick way you can actually tell, if you want to know if your body's acidic, you can go to a health food store and buy pH paper. And there's two ways if you can see what state your body's in. You can either pee on it or you can put some saliva on it and it'll tell you right away. If it's yellow or red, you have an issue and you need to address it fairly quickly. And if it's green or blue, you know you're alkaline and your body's in a good state. So again, why do we care if our body's acidic? Because when we're acidic, what that does is it steals electrons from our cells. And those electrons are what keeps our cells healthy. When you go down, you've got organs, and you go even deeper, you get to the cell level, and basically those cells are healthy or not depending on the charge in them. So when you eat acidic foods, it steals electrons from your cells and it ages those cells faster than if you ate energized foods, natural foods that come from the ground. Good example of how acidity works in nature. When there's too much acidity, we've been burning fossil fuels and that's dumped a huge amount of carbon dioxide into the atmosphere. It gets absorbed into the ocean and the ocean becomes acidic. And what happens is, as an example, the Great Barrier Reef in Australia, the coral's all dying off because it's getting bleached and it can't live in that acidic environment. When you look at that in our body, how does it show up? It shows up as age spots, shows up as inflammation, pain in your joints, fatigue, and then if you stay acidic too long, basically you end up with chronic disease. Arthritis, rheumatoid arthritis. If you get really acidic, you end up with cancer. And all of this is related to basically that acidity stealing electrons from your cells and weakening those cells. The other effect is when you have a blood cell that's positive because it's been drained and one that's negative, those two clump together. And when they clump together, that's what you call blood clotting. So it's really important to have two strongly charged, nicely formed red blood cells because then they repel each other and you have good circulation in the body. An example in the car of when your cells are drained in your body, but in your car, if you leave the dome light on, the battery gets drained. Car might start after a night, and you hear it, it goes, and then it'll start. If you leave it for a month, it's definitely not going to start because that battery's dead. Same thing in the body. If you're eating acidic foods for a long period of time, that translates into those cells being so drained that you end up getting cancer, disease, viruses, take your pick. So how do we boost the charge in our cells? Going out into the sun is a great way because that energizes our body and gives us vitamin D. Eating foods that are natural from the earth because they draw electrons. The earth is negatively charged and it draws it up into the food. So when we eat that, it gets absorbed into our cells. And the third way is drinking electrically reduced water. And what that is this water that's been charged with negative ions. And when you drink that water, you can actually measure it using an ORP meter. That charge gets absorbed into our red blood cells, makes them strongly charged, and that's what protects us from disease. So going back to the doctor, they never ask, what's the cause? What caused this? And 9 times out of 10, it's your emotional state and what you're putting in your mouth. Alkalize and energize, and you'll never have to worry about viruses, bacteria, and disease. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this, hit like and subscribe, and we'll see you next time.